Welcome back to the Matriarch Method, where power meets purpose, wisdom leads by example, and women run the show. How are we doing, ladies?
Doing good. How are you doing?
I'm here. I'm fucking here.
I'm hungry.
How
I just
was
looked on it.
yeah, so since we last recapped, Liz got a new job, Britt moved to Texas, and I'm still in prep. Any updates along those lines?
Like you said, I got a new job, so I am just adjusting to the new schedule, but so far so good. I'm happy about it.
Good.
I haven't had gas in my home this entire time that I've been here.
So like no hot water or anything like that?
Oh, yeah. It's been a rough start, but I'm happy to be here. So,
Because you're renting a house, right? So do you have a landlord or how does that work?
so the last tenants didn't have gas like in the house for some reason. They just did not put gas on.
Oh.
And when the gas is off for a certain amount of time, the house has to get reapproved
Right.
to to be it has to be inspected again, basically.
Yeah.
The gas had been off since July of 2024. So I came in and I guess the landlord I assumed he did not know. And that's the thing about renting a house is that you don't need to do any inspections and all the utilities are on the tenant. So the tenant, the utilities were in the tenant's names. And so, um, yeah, so basically I've been running around trying to get this place inspected and like it's just been taking forever. And the city of Dallas has a new like mandate where I don't know if it's a mandate, I don't even know like what I'm saying, but basically they've changed their needs for the city to be inspected, like for houses to be inspected. So like it's just been a nightmare. Like their systems are down. I don't have gas. I'm unhappy. So well, I'm not unhappy, but like
Bert wants gas.
I would like to be able to cook my food
Yeah, dude, that's
on a
that's
stove.
wild. I have not thought about gas since Athens, Ohio. Because in Athens, like you had gas. Like you had gas, you had electric, and you had water.
Yeah. In big cities like this, I think that just the what is the word I'm looking for? But just the way that you get things done here is just different. There's so many people.
Yeah,
So
I don't know, I feel like that's super inefficient just because like I get like so in Athens, Ohio, like it kind of makes sense that shit would take forever because it's a little podunk town, but like in a place like Dallas, like you think they would have like their shit together. Liz, go coordinate down there. Go
yeah,
coordinate. Go train
tell them,
people.
tell them
I
on it.
love it. I love it. I am kind of super excited about our topic about like teams versus rocking solo, especially because we've all been on teams and we are now all solo. And I think we all have kind of like unique perspectives and things to add. But across the whole, like, did you guys enjoy working first in a team or working solo before we kind of dive in as to like the pros and the cons of each?
So I'll go first. I started solo.
Mhm.
So I started coaching solo, but I wasn't sitting like, I'm not on a team. I need to get on a team. Like, that's
Mhm.
not how it really happened.
Yeah.
It was just doing it because I wanted to help people and people wanted my help. And I was like, cool, let's do this. Right. And then a position opened up with a team that I was working with previously. And I was like, let me see if I don't think I'll get the job. Like, I'll
Mhm.
just see what they need or see what the benefits would be of like getting on a team. And then I ended up getting it. And I was like, oh, okay. And then when I got on the team, I think that the main thing that I learned was that I didn't have streamlined processes yet.
Uh,
um, I didn't know what that looked like. And so to have the support of a team streamlining all your processes with, a whole website or a microsite, as most assistant coaches have, um, and the ability to like kind of understand how to funnel in people that are interested in your coaching and then be able to have a brand that, at the time was reputable, um, to be able to lean on that, right? Like, and so I think that at first I didn't think anything of being on my own.
Yep.
It wasn't until I got off the team and now I'm on my own again that I'm sitting here like, oh, I'm not on a team anymore. Like, oh, I don't have that support because now I know what it feels like or what it felt like. So I think just the transition and mindset, but then also I will say that I gained a lot from that team to be able to really monetize my business and like know what's important when it comes to showing up on social media and knowing how and the importance of networking and stuff like that. So like without that team, I probably would be moving a little bit slower because I would have had to pay for a lot of like mentorships and things like that that I just didn't need to at the time because I was fully supported by that entity. And so yes, it's a cool thing to experience. There's pros and cons. And yeah, I think we should just get into it that way. Like we can kind of go into or divulge in that. But like that's where I'm at, I think. I think there is not really like I did or did not like it. It's just one of those things that you get and you experience it and then you get to take the lessons that you've learned. So
I like that. It's like a stepping stone approach because some people really thrive off teams and really like working on teams. Some people, they go into a team atmosphere and they take and gain what they needed to grow. And then they find out that like they just no longer need that additional support and atmosphere and do just as well on their own, if not better, because they gained experience and knowledge where they're able to take very similar like processes and systems and implement it with their own unique brand and personal touch. And so it's like you kind of gain that autonomy and skill. So it's never necessarily like a right or a wrong answer. I think it's what is right for you in that specific moment.
yeah. So yeah, I mean like I, I don't know if I would want to develop and I am developing like my own team. Like so like I want that, but I think that the role that I want is to be like a like leading a full staff. Like that's where I would like to be, right? So that's like in the process, but without that team, I wouldn't be able to even view myself in that way.
Right.
So, yeah.
What about
Yeah.
you, Liz? What's your cup of tea?
Well, I was in a similar position where I coached on my own and then had an opportunity on the same team as B. But it was to me the mentorship was like what really drew me into like wanting to work with a team. Um, and again, we'll get into like all the pros and cons of our own experiences, but
Mhm.
that was the biggest thing to me is the mentorship piece because I was doing relatively well coaching on my own, but those systems and just for me, more of the functional health cases is something that I needed to grow on. And
Mhm.
that was huge for me. And now that I am on my own, like that was super beneficial to me. And I have hired other coaches to mentor me and paid for that as well. But having that included in being on a team was a huge benefit for me at the time, too. So, um, yeah, we'll definitely dive more into that. But I think it is something that helped me get to the next level as a coach. And it's definitely something that I took a lot away from. And yes, there are some cons where on the other side, I'm like, yeah, I like being on my own again now, but there was a reason for it for me. And I think it did help move my career along faster than it would have if I just kept doing it on my own or, you know, had to strictly pay out mentors directly
No,
that way.
100%. I think that's you guys have since you guys were on the same team, but now are on solo. Like you guys have very shared experiences and great insight versus my experience of working on the team entirely different. And it was very negative. And it was something where because I was a part of a business that was still being figured out, I forget what the term is, and I couldn't pull it out of my ass even if I tried right now. But because it was so new in the business aspect and because I was kind of like developing it, like I didn't have the mentorship. In fact, I was the one that continued my own education outside of being an assistant coach because that level of support wasn't established yet. And while yes, there was a huge team environment, it was very like it was, I mean, looking back on it, it was just gross, but also who I was in that time was also gross. So it was much more cultish and secluded, even more so than maybe a team environment may be perceived from the outside people. While yes, there were systems and processes that I didn't have to worry about when it came to like funneling in clients, also the clients that I worked with, I did not align with. And so that's ultimately is why I left because I was so burnt out and depressed that I wasn't working with people that aligned with me, or I wasn't really aligning with who I wanted to be and how I wanted to coach, that it ended up in social isolation and a complete lack of community and support where I needed to develop. And so that's actually why, like, I don't want to say I'm anti being on team, but because I had such a poor taste and because I was overworked and undercompensated for the work that I did, oh man, it's like it is something where I hate to use the word trauma, but it's something where it's like I have no real security when it comes to wanting to be on a team because I don't feel safe because of how poor that experience was. But obviously, my experience is vastly different from your guys's. So I think it'd be really good to transition to like what is the pros and cons of a team atmosphere and why a coach might consider being on a team.
Yeah, and I think something that interests me is you've said this to me before, before we even started the podcast. And I've also had like my own clients. Like I have some clients who've been with me since before I was on the team. Like I was on
Mhm.
my own, stuck with me through being on the team, and then came out on the other end. They're still with me on it. And I remember when I like announced to them that I was going back on my own, and they were like, to be honest, like I didn't know like why you ever joined a team to begin with,
I
And I was like,
did
well,
say
thanks.
that, Liz. I
You did
did.
say that, yeah. And some of the clients said that, and I appreciate that. But to me, I definitely like saw a big benefit of it, and I do see how much I've grown in so many ways through being on the team. So that's we'll dig into that more. But I definitely think it's interesting to see like from the outside someone thinking like I didn't even need to be on a team, But I do
At
definitely
least
think I
that
benefit.
team. Like, just being honest, like that was the team. I just like I like looked at that and I was like, it doesn't make sense. But like again, I also didn't know you at the time. I just
Yeah,
knew what you showed me, right?
yeah,
I think my experience is a lot different. Like
Mhm.
I loved being on that team. Like that was probably one of the times I felt the most aligned. Was a decision doing that. I'm just being like honest. It was probably one of the best experiences I ever had, in the beginning. And so like I yeah, I thrived. Like I thrived on that team because the people that I was around, I think just the person I was stepping into at the time, like I do thrive with support. I thrive with like strength and like strong people. And that's who I came into that fold with. And so I really thrived off that and I was pushed with it. And I made like really great friends, like with Liz, with Leah, like stuff like that. And so I gained a lot. Like I gained a lot, and I'm not gonna sit here and act like I didn't. Um,
yeah.
but
Same.
like, I think that what drew me, like Liz said, was that piece of mentorship. I desperately needed a mentor, like desperately. And I couldn't afford to get one. And I didn't even know who I would go to other than my previous coach at the time. So I was like, well, if I can do this and I can gain that, then that would be solid. Like that was the main thing that drew me. And then like the support came. The team environment was there. And so I think that like the main thing that it didn't really bother me, throughout my time, but like when you go and you are on when you're taking on the responsibility of representing someone's brand, there are certain things that are expected of you based on who's leading that brand. So we can't sit here and say that you can, I mean, being authentically yourself is important,
Mhm.
but to an extent, like when you are representing someone else with their own expectations and lens of how they view the world. And so that can be a little off-putting to people. For me, I was aligned with it, so it didn't
Right.
matter. Like, but for some other people, it might be different. Like they might want to express themselves in certain ways and they can't because of maybe some of the rules surrounding business with that certain entity. I know that when I bring people on for myself, there's going to be a certain way that I want my staff to show up. And that's just how it works. That's how business works. Because you're trying to uphold a certain standard, like for your brand. Now, when you're on your own, you can be a little bit more flexible and creative. However, it's still important to show up in a professional way, right? Like, regardless of if you're on your own or not. So I feel like sometimes people will say things like, "Well, you know, you have all these rules when you're on a team." Well, you have rules when you're by yourself too, if you're a professional. Like it doesn't make a difference. It depends on what lens you're looking at the world through. And when you're under a brand or a branch, you're going to be under the mercy of the lens of the person who owns the space, um, financially, right? So that's just something to be aware of too. So
Absolutely, which is why again it also goes back to like being aligned with the like the head coach or the team environment or the culture and making sure that like it continues to align with you and then understanding that if it no longer does, that's when it's time to step away. And that's like not necessarily a bad thing. It is something to just consider though that when it comes to like signing contracts and stuff like that, when it comes to like how you are compensated, what is, the expectations of your time when it comes to like being a coach, on call hours, check-ins, like all the stuff that B is talking about. And then also keeping into consideration that if you do decide to leave, whose clients are they? Are they your clients or are they the team's clients or the LLC's clients? Because a lot of the times reading the fine print in the contract, like there will be like non-compete clauses where like mine was so strict, I couldn't even legally be a coach after I left, right? And of course, like that's unlikely going to hold up in a court of law because that would take away from my ability to feed myself. And that is like a big red flag, but there can still be like signs and legalese of like non-compete or who actually owns the clients, you or the team. And so it is just important that when you get into a team atmosphere, when it comes down to like literally signing a contract, that you do read it thoroughly and that if you don't understand, please take the time to hire a lawyer so that way you know what you're getting yourself into and you also are protected. Because at the end of the day, it's like you still want to be a coach and you want to do right by yourself and right by your clients and right by the team that you're working for. But that's something that I regretted is I felt forced to sign a contract, even though no one was forcing me, but I didn't understand enough, and neither did Eric really, which is why he really brushed up on the lawyerisms, if you will, to make sure that like because we got burned, that like we wouldn't get burned again. And I do think it's something that's really important to also consider where it's like, yes, team atmospheres can be really, really good. Absolutely. And like they definitely provide so many positives. And then it's also important to consider not necessarily the negatives, but the realities of the fact that your clients may not be your own. You may have me less autonomy in back end systems, which I mean, that might be a pro for some people, absolutely. But it is also just important to understand, like B was saying, that you represent something bigger than yourself. And it is important to have that alignment to make sure you are enjoying not only being a coach, but who you're surrounded with too.
yeah, I think that when it comes to the contract and like really thinking about that, I think in the moment, I was like, this is going to help me.
Mhm,
So I was just like, yeah, and that was part of all of that is doing what I felt was best at the time,
mhm,
not really thinking like, oh, I might want to at some point go on my own because that's not where my confidence was at the time. Like
mhm.
I
I
think
didn't
that's where
really,
most coaches who are signing on to a team are probably at that same spot where like you're just thinking about like this is the best thing for me now
yeah,
and don't really think about like you don't really think about like, oh, I'm gonna want to leave this team eventually. But for
I'm
most people that will be the case, I think.
I didn't I didn't foresee that at all. Like
Yeah, I didn't either,
I was
honestly.
like, I'll probably stay here forever. Like,
That was
and
how I was too.
yeah, I was like, I'm never leaving, right? Like, because it was at the time, like, exactly what I needed. And like, I also didn't have the foresight or the confidence to be like, oh, I could do this I could be successful like this. Like, I could have my own team or I could actually lead people. I just was like, I really need the mentorship. And even though it's funny, I also wanted to say this about mentorship on a team is that it's not free. So like, it seems free because like you're not directly paying for it, but you're getting a percentage taken out of your pay
Yeah.
for time that is being given to you by whomever is mentoring you, if that's the exchange that you're getting. And so it was less pressure for me, I think. Like it was a less pressure situation for me to be able to like get educated, understand what it really looks like to funnel in clients and have and get a higher volume of clients, so that I could get to this point.
Yeah, and mine was a little bit different because it was a bodybuilding team and they brought me on to be the head coach of the lifestyle team. So for me, when I signed on, it was kind of like, oh, like I'm taking this and running with it, and I also didn't envision like leaving either. I was just like, oh, this is
Hmm.
what I'm going to do. But I think over time, just like you said, like what aligns with you changes and your your vision changes and you got to do what makes sense for you as things go on. But I do think it's important to think long term and not just be like, you can be so excited about working for a particular team and just be like, yeah, whatever the contract says, like, sure. But you do want to really make sure that you go through that and see, like, okay, like if I did have to leave the team, what does that look like?
Hmm.
Because you can, in honestly, most coaching teams, and this is the same if you work for a gym or anything too. It's not just like coaching teams, but like usually you're going to leave with no clients,
Yeah.
you know? So you just have to be prepared of like, well, what am I going to do in that case?
Uh-huh. Absolutely. And I will say, like, the benefit of that team is, yes, the support and camaraderie, especially if you guys are in similar proximities or have similar personalities or similar, like, learning styles. You guys just, like, might click instantly and you can gain some of your, like, best friends in that environment. And a lot of the times, like, I forget what the exact phrase is, but it's not just happiness isn't just defined by the work that you're doing, it's who you do it with. And having like supportive coworkers can definitely make or break your experience, just as working with quote unquote good athletes or athletes that align with you. So it is something where it's just like having that extra support or the camaraderie or the troubleshooting, especially like I said, we were talking about mentorships, but even just like picking another coach's brain. Because at the end of the day, especially since now the three of us have, I would say very similar levels of education. There are some places where we might like stick out or shine up above, especially with B, the competition athletes, and Liz with the lifestyle thing. So it's like being able to pick each other's brains. And that goes beyond, networking. But I feel like that's something that a coaching team can instill confidence is your ability to want to network and have the courage to reach out to people because sometimes we think the other person like is just scary or they might hate us because we don't know us and we just like plant these like bull crap like anxiety of what if they don't like me when in reality it's like they're not thinking about you, dog. They're thinking about them and their problems. But I feel like sometimes the coaching network and atmosphere can help from a team aspect, be like, hey, you know what? Like, we're all people at the end of the day. It's like we want to help one another, especially when the goal and the message is to genuinely help people. But on the solo side, it's like understanding that when it's solo, yeah, you get a lot more power, a lot more say because it's all on you. But because it's all on you, it's all on you. You know what I'm saying? And that comes with the cost of the back end, the business coaching, because that's all on you. And the mentorship, especially when it comes to like the business side, but then also the coaching side. Like you have to juggle both. And since I have been more solo, I think, than both of you, like I will full up say that like a business mentorship and a mentorship long term, we're talking 10,000 plus dollars. Easy, right? And even then, it's like not like all the education out there. You know what I'm saying? It's just like the bare bones. And then this past like 3 months, I've been working with or I guess technically 1 month Jesus Christ. The
Right.
past 1 month, excuse me, like I spent about 2 grand on a website. You know what I'm saying? So it's like if I had maybe like a different avenue or approach, maybe I could have found like a cheaper option or whatever. But because it is my business, I do want it to represent me. I wanted to make sure that the website developer I worked with embodied me. And so that is something else that you need to consider that, like Brittany was talking about earlier, your professionalism and your standard is set to a place that you want it, especially when you're going to be like B, where you want people under you. Like you got to have that shit figured out.
Yeah, you have to be super organized. And it's almost like if you're going to stay on your own, I hate to say it, like I'm just gonna say it. It's gonna sound like fucked up, but I'm gonna say it. When you're on your own and you don't plan to have people under you and you're not gonna be responsible for people,
Mhm,
you are only set at the standards of yourself, which you can let things fall a little bit and only you know. Only you know. Okay. When it comes to getting organized and getting ready to care for other people, it's a different level.
mhm,
It's like you need to make sure everything is organized. You need to make sure that your people under you, because it's very easy for people to look at you want to call, I don't want to call me a boss, but their head coach and pick out all the things they're doing wrong and all the
mhm,
things that they fucked up on. It's so easy to do it. I did that shit. Liz probably did that shit. And so me knowing this and being aware, it's all on you, but then it's also like, people don't realize how much work it takes to really get a back end, even if you are on your own, like we
mhm,
are, right? Like to get, like, there's always something to do. Like, is your to do list ever fucking like gone? No. Like, I could easily work all day, every day,
mhm,
easily. Like, because there's always something to create. There's always something that you can do to elevate yourself or elevate your business or elevate your reach. There's always something there.
mhm,
But when you're on a team, you don't really view it like that because everything's mostly taken care of for you and it's not all your responsibility. So, like, if something's wrong with my microsite while I'm on a team, I just reach out to the person that will do it for me and hopefully they respond. But if I can't figure it out, then, oh, well, I guess I'll go watch TV. Like when you're doing your own thing, you have power. Like you can fix things on your own if you have the ability to, right? And so in that responsibility, you can easily find yourself working nonstop, because you're constantly trying to refine your business. And it's another step up when you plan to hire people under you. It's just a different level.
And I
mhm,
think the back end support is like a good topic of I think it really depends on how big your roster gets. Like for me, where I'm at currently, like that back end stuff, I can easily handle it on my own.
mhm,
And at no point since I left that team have I ever been like, damn, I really wish I had that person doing that thing for me. Like I had not had a single moment like that. But
mhm,
maybe it's different for you. I know you have a bigger roster than I do. There might be moments where you're like, man, I missed that, you know?
mhm.
I think it does depend on just like how many how many things you have to juggle and everything, you know?
I
Absolutely.
actually, I like that I can fix things on my own.
Yeah.
Mhm,
I like that if there's a problem, I can go in and just figure it out and then it's done. Like, I like that. Um, but at some point I probably won't have time to do that. It already
mhm.
starting to feel that way. So,
And I
Absolutely.
think there is like the autonomy piece of like lots of the back end things, but when it's your own business and you're controlling all of those pieces, you can kind of decide how you want to handle situations.
Mhm,
You can decide how you want your pricing to be, things like that. Where if you're on a team, like that's not your decision on your own. You might be able to bring it up and say, like, hey, I'd like to see this or I would like to do this. But ultimately, it's the whole team and like the leadership, their decision. But like, let's just say you have an upset customer, on the team, they might have a certain way of handling that. It's like, this is what we do, this is the procedure. But if you're on your own, you might decide to help someone out with something, you know,
mhm.
give it a certain approach or respond in different ways based on how you see fit in the situation too. So I think that is one piece of being able to decide how to handle certain situations and pricing and things like that.
Sure. It's almost like having a decision tree or a flow chart when it comes to customer service support, back end stuff. Like if X, then Y. And I do think that is really important to have when you're doing solo, especially when you are wanting to have people under you. Because, like, it's one thing to be responsible for bread on the table for yourself and your significant other. It's a whole other thing to know that you're responsible for feeding five other people and their families on top of yourself. Right. So you have to like be realistic when it comes to your work ethic and your ability to follow through on standards that you are setting if that is your dream. Now, for me, like B, I admire the fuck that she wants to have this big team. And I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure she gets it as her friend. My business goals ain't that big. It ain't. Does that make me any less? I mean, maybe if that's how you define success, but kind of going back to how I define success, I want to work with like, we'll say average 50 clients and, me continuing to invest in my education and do other things. But I know that the life that I want to live does not require me to be able to be responsible for other people's families. And at least in a way that like controls their cash flow. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't want to be responsible for that because truly my dream is to be a really good coach and do it as long as I possibly can while it fulfills me, while I'm also being a good wife and backpacking with my husband. And me backpacking with my husband, that means I go remote, which means I am unavailable while we are in the freaking mountains. You know what I'm saying? Like I know like the AT&T thing is they got like Skynet now where they're like dropping shit down with like paramedics and shit. Hell no. If I'm in the woods and I'm watching a bear eat snacks, I want to see that bear eat snacks. I don't want to be bombarded with telephone calls or whatever. But it's like that's the life I've chosen to live. So I've made peace with that and I've shaken hands with it. But there's someone like B where she's aggressive as fuck. And so my job as her friend and also I guess peer, coworker, whatever the fuck you want to call me, whatever this is, this menage, like I want to see her win and help her to chase her dream. So I'm gonna do that.
That is funny. He said aggressive. Sorry. That was funny. It's but I think for me, like where my passion lies is really just giving people opportunity.
Yeah.
Like want I want people to like be like, yo, like I want to do this with you. Like I
Mhm.
want that I with you, I believe in myself a little more. Like that's where I thrive even if I end up being a stepping stone for someone. Like
Mhm.
I don't care. Like I want to be like somebody that really impacts someone's life to where like they believe in themselves. And cuz that's happened to me. Like it happens to me with you guys. Like when you get like what you said like you want that for me.
Mhm.
Like that lets me know you think I'm worthy of that in areas for myself where I don't know if I'm worthy of that. I say these things like I'm like, I want this, but it's like when I think about doing it, I'm scared as fuck. Like, and so that's really what deters people sometimes is that like it's a big thing to like commit to and to talk out loud. But because it's being talked out loud, I know what'll happen.
Mhm. Buddy. Yeah, and that's something where it's also again the support system. So just because you rock it solo, like the three of us, we each have our own coaching teams, our own coaching businesses. It's only socially isolating if you choose it to be so, if you make it so. And granted, I understand the huge barrier there because especially like when Liz and Britt were on the same team, I definitely felt like I was like outside, like, knocking on the door, being like, hi guys. Like I felt like there was a barrier to you that I created. Like there was something that either one of you did, but because you were on a team and I wasn't on the team, like I felt like I didn't have access to you, but that was me. That was a me problem. So while yes, you are socially isolated, it's usually because it's your fault. It's not that people are unwilling to make friends or communicate or shoot the shit or spitball or come together and network. But you have to have the courage, especially when you're solo, to not hide behind, the comfort of your laptop where it's cozy and safe and put yourself out there. Network with IG Lives, network with coaching, go to coaches summits, go to networks, go to workshops, like whether it's online or in person. Like there's so many opportunities to grow and network that you got to go get it. But you also have to pay for it too. And that's kind of like the other thing is like sometimes networking has a price and sometimes it's well worth it and sometimes it's not. And you live and learn and chalk it up to learning experience.
Yeah, and I think that the support and the camaraderie is one of the best things that I experienced when I was on that team. And before I was on the team, I was very much like on a little island of a similar thing where I was just like scared to reach out to anyone. And I don't even think I realized how much I was missing of being able to collaborate or just bounce ideas off of someone. So with the little lifestyle team we had, like, I just remember the 3 of us coaches that were on that part of the team, like, we would talk every single day and just, like, shoot ideas at each other, and we'd constantly be like, I'm so grateful that, like, we have each other to do that, and, I still talk to one of them daily, and, of course, I still talk to B all the time, and I think now I have that confidence to be able to just reach out to whatever coach I want,
Mhm.
regardless of what team they're on, and just be like, "Hey, like, you're really good at this area, what do you think about this?" Or, like, "Can I pick your brain here?" So I think being in that situation allowed me to get more comfortable in that situation and like put myself out there more. But definitely before being on the team, I don't think I had that confidence either.
Mhm.
I feel the same way. I think I think now it's like I view everyone pretty much on an equal level.
Mhm.
I think when I was younger, because I mean I launched Built by Brit in 2020. So that's 5 years. Yeah, that's crazy. It's almost been 5 years. But I think back then I viewed myself as a small person. Like I networked well, but I didn't know. Like I didn't see myself as a knowledgeable source. And now that I do, I think that that's really where like my confidence comes from is just being like is knowing that the people that I'm networking with, like, they have their own methods. And, like, that doesn't make them any higher or lower than me. It just means that they have different methods. Like, and if anything, because they have different methods, I should probably be talking to them. Like, I
Yep.
should probably be asking them, like, hey, how did you get through this? Like, there's people that peak completely different than me.
Mhm.
There's people that, think like I think Leah picked one of our athletes like last year. Um, and she was no longer on the team that we were working on. And she was sharing her peaking strategy. And I was like, and she's put less people on stage than me at the time. And still now, but like we would have in her eyes, I was more experienced in that. And she had a method that she used, and I was like, well, that was very creative. Like, I wouldn't have thought of that, honestly, I wouldn't have thought that would work. Like and I told her that straight up, so, like, there's gonna be times where you'll talk to somebody and they're different, and it's like, it's a good thing. So
It's like something I say a lot to my athletes is perspective is powerful. And when you are working with a coach, you are a lot of the times you are paying and hiring them for their perspective, right? When you hire a mentor, take a class, you are hiring and learning a different perspective, a different lens, a different worldview. There's no different between that and like the support group, right? So again, even though you know all the same information and even understand how to apply it, it's like I was talking with Ash, Spilks, a different girl that one of my best friends, but again, another coach. We were talking about in our podcast today about talking about like what interview questions for coaches, right? And how if one coach is like, oh, this is my way or the highway, this is the only way to get to your end goal. It's like, okay, well, how many different ways can we get to the number 50? We can do 1 times 50. You can do 25 times 4. You can do 5 times 10 and you're still getting to the same fucking answer, right? But it just depends on what that athlete needs. And so again, 3 different answers, but Liz got to 50, Ash got to 50, B got to 50. But what was best for that client is the approach and the way that that approach was delivered, right? And that's at the end of the day, it's really important to understand that like that's how teams and solo coaching should be viewed. You can get to the same answer of 50, but whether you need to go solo and struggle for a little bit and then do a team and then go back on your own, whether a team atmosphere is your ride or die, or whether you just want to kick it solo always and learn differently. Like there is no right or wrong answer. There is what you need to do to grow, to learn, to become better. And I think that at the end of the day is like we can list all the pros and cons for both, and it's neither the right answer nor the wrong one. It's what you need right now to make the impact that you want to make. and can you do it consistently long term? I think that's a great way to kind of look at teams versus solo.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
and one thing I wanted to touch on was like the structure and like accountability piece, because something that we had on the team was like weekly meetings. We'd also have like quarterly like goal setting meetings. And I think you can still do that with yourself. Like I still set quarterly goals and yearly goals and check in with myself of like how am I doing on these. Um so like you don't need a team to do those things, but it is something that I didn't do before I was on the team that I was like, oh, this is a really good idea. And that comes back to like the structure and that piece of it. But that's something that I learned of like, okay, I'm going to keep doing this for myself.
Yeah, it really pushes you a different way, I think, because like when we first got there, there were expectations regarding how often we posted. And it wasn't necessarily for the team, it was for us to grow.
Mhm.
I want to be clear about that because it's like the more you show up, the more it benefits you. It's not like you show up on social media and you're benefiting the team. Like you're creating what they were trying to do was create more visibility for us. So like, and that takes discipline. Like Ash posts every day, almost every weekday, I think, almost right,
I
right.
post on my stories every single day because I have my phrase every damn day and it shows me showing up. But when it
You're
comes to like hard posts, it's like 3 times a week.
okay. So, but back in, I think when you first started, you were posting almost every day at this point. Like at least I remember 5 days a week ish.
Oh,
So
yeah.
like, yeah. So like, and but that's what it takes. Like that's what it takes. I remember one of the first things that I learned when I got on that team was you need to post. And like right now you need people to see you. And I was like I was just like, okay, like when I was on my own, I was posting maybe like twice a week, three
Mhm.
times, maybe. And they were like, you need to, if you want to create visibility for yourself, like your future client probably needs to see you
Mm.
multiple times a day. Like, so your stuff should be popping up on their timeline all the time. And I was like, damn, that's kind of pushy. Like, that's kind of annoying. Like, and
It is.
I'm like, and
I
it
think
is
that like
like,
every coach thinks that way though. Like we all think we're being annoying, but
but
in the reality, we need to do it.
but because we had these expectations, like I was like, all right, well, I'm really competitive. So like I was like, fuck it. Let it rip. I'm like, I'm gonna post 5 days a week. I'm gonna make it happen. I'm gonna post on TikTok. Like I was all on it. And I will say, like, since I don't need it as much now, but back then it took up a lot of space in my mind, whereas now it doesn't take as much space because I
Mhm.
don't to like make posts about education anymore. I just a lot of my athletes will collaborate with me and stuff. And so I use that as my main driver. But like in the beginning, yeah, like there were expectations that absolutely helped me.
Mhm.
Uh, and I think that that's something to take away. Like you don't need a team to help you out with that, but it helps tremendously because back then I wasn't thinking in that way. I was like, oh, it doesn't matter. I'm getting enough clients. And they were like, if you want to grow, this is what you need to do. And I was like, okay. Like,
I think it can be like a double-edged sword because like the comparison in a way was like you said, it's like competitive. So like you knew you were getting on a team meeting and then that you'd be seeing someone else talking about all their posts and how many athletes they signed and whatever, and you'd be like, oh shit, I
well,
didn't.
that was
But
also the vibe of the meeting though, was like, let's
yeah,
everyone talk about all the good things they're doing until we changed it. So like,
right. Yeah, because at a certain point we did have that discussion of like this isn't
this
always a
isn't
healthy
healthy.
thing. Yeah,
It's not healthy.
exactly. Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, but I do think to some degree it helps until there's too much comparison there, and I think that's important too.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But for what it's worth, the comparison's most likely always going to be there because you might not be comparing against one another on the team, but like you're still likely going to be comparing to everyone else like on Instagram, which is why it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, it's great that team network or the team environment like was addressed, but also like even solo, like I still do that shit and I shouldn't. It is not healthy, absolutely, but it's also like inner work that needs to be done. And rather than that allowing you to like take away from the good work that you're doing, like B said, have courage and like gain perspective. Like see how maybe a coach is different. Do they offer mentorships? Do they offer classes or courses? Like can you do a one-time consultation and just ask questions? Like a lot of coaches do offer consultations when it comes to just like learning them and their perspective or whatever. So it's like, don't be afraid to put yourself out there, but also the professionalism needs to be there. Now, I get when you're first starting out, money's tight, dog. I get it. But remind yourself how you treat others is likely how you are going to be treated. Pay for people's time, like respect it, show up to meetings on time. Like if it's free, understand that it might be free to you, but it's a cost to them. Be respectful. Say thank you. Like again, like all the manners things should not be thrown out the window. You should not expect anything, but be grateful for everything. Because I know that when I didn't know shit about fuck and someone that I looked up to gave me a nuggie, like I took that nuggie and I put it on a board, right? And I have a list of people that I've learned things from where it is literally titled like Dom Kuza Nuggie or Trey Bruffy Nuggie, Brittany Holloman Nuggie, because I appreciate their time and their education and their willingness to help me. Like that cost them their time. And especially when I couldn't afford anything back then, like I paid what I could. And maybe it was like laughable now, but it was still respect. And I do feel like a lot of newer coaches nowadays, like they just expect things to be free. They're like, oh, you should give me time because whatever. And it's like, nah, dog. Respect the craft and respect the people that came before you. And maybe that's too Miss America for some people, and that's fine. But like, that was how I was brought up to where it's like you respect people and their trade and their craft. And ever since I have done that, it has manifested in such a positive way for me, where people now pay for my time and respect my time. And it means the world to me. So, any final thoughts or things, ladies?
I got all my stuff out.
Except your
I
gas.
think one thing I don't think we touched on was like, and this is just something to look into when you're maybe researching a team or interviewing with a team, if you are thinking about working with one, is just, are they actually funneling athletes to you or not? Because
Mm,
some teams, you sign up and they literally like hand you athletes, and that is a big benefit, but some don't, and you're still having to get them like kind of 100% on your own, you know? So I think understanding that is huge too, because that is a little bit of a determining factor on whether like how much money they're taking out is worth it. Because if you're getting handed athletes, like that's a big benefit. But if you're still kind of having to do what you would have been doing on your own, not as much worth it. So I think that's one thing to consider as well.
Yeah. And like, are they being fair with it too? Like, how are they funneling athletes? Um, because it can be it can be hard because there will be a lot of inquiries for like a certain coach that can't take them and or that can't take the athlete or they don't want to take the athlete and they'll, you know, how are they playing it fair for the
mhm,
coaches that they're trying to level them up, right? So how are they doing that? It's important to look at that. It's important to look at like just their systems. Like I'm not gonna lie to you, like systems are changing right now. Like social media is changing. Like if you're not able to keep up with it, if you yourself can't keep up with it, like, and you're going on a team, that team needs to be keeping up with it too.
mhm,
Cause it is the terrain right now is crazy. It's all people are starting to do a lot of ads. Um, it's a lot of like I don't necessarily think you need to be like strategic about your marketing. Like you need to show up as yourself, but
mhm,
your message needs to be there. Like is your team's is if you're gonna go on a team, are they doing things better than you?
mhm,
You need to be asking yourself that question. And I ask like if I ever went on a team again, which probably wouldn't, I don't know. Who knows? You can never say never, but if I ever did, they need to be doing things like far better than me. And like they need to be making sure that if I were to go on their team, that they're providing me something that I can't provide myself.
Yeah.
So, and at this point, it would be hard to do that.
mhm,
Like, so as you grow as a coach, being on a team is less and less attractive unless the coaches on that team are like fucking nails, like fucking killers,
mhm,
Sapsons. Like But at that point, it's like, you're already doing it on your own, right? So
Agreed. No, that was a good final message. Just make sure that, like, if you do decide to go on a team, like, ask the hard questions, ask about pay, ask about contracts, ask about philosophies, methods, because again, you represent not only yourself, but you also amplify that team. So you have to consider those things. And if you decide to keep it solo, you got to make sure you stay true to your message, but then also hold yourself to a high standard. Because when you own your own boss, it can be difficult to, like, oh, I could just take it easy this week. And if you are the boss that's always taking it easy, you will fall behind and you will likely not make it. So if you're going to be your own boss, remember to be a fucking boss. That's all I got, ladies.
Good way to end it.
All right. Until next time. Peace.
Bye.